Ethan Morrison did not expect to see smoke rising from his chimney. The sun was sinking low behind the Montana hills, spilling red and gold across the open land as he rode toward his ranch. His shoulders ached, his hands were cracked, and dust clung to every inch of him after 3 long weeks on the cattle trail. All he wanted was silence, a cold house, a simple meal, eaten alone. That was how his life had been since the war ended and since he chose this lonely stretch of land in 1885. So, when he saw lamplight glowing through his windows, his body stiffened and his hand slid toward the revolver on his hip. No one should have been there. As he rode closer, another thing reached him, the smell. Fresh bread, meat simmering, something warm and rich that made his stomach tighten with hunger and suspicion at the same time. Ethan dismounted quietly, tied his horse, and moved toward the house with slow, careful steps. The porch boards creaked under his boots. Inside, he heard the faint sound of stirring. Someone was in his kitchen. Ethan drew his gun, pushed the door open with his boot, and stepped inside, prepared for violence. Instead, he froze. A woman stood at his stove. She wore a simple dress, sleeves rolled, a wooden spoon in her hand. Her auburn hair was pinned up, but loose strands had escaped, glowing in the lantern light. She turned at the sound of the door, green eyes widening as she saw the gun pointed in her direction. "Mr. Gall." "Morrison," she said calmly, far too calm for someone staring down a weapon. "I hope you don't mind. I let myself in. I thought you might want a hot meal." Ethan stared, his mind struggling to catch up with his eyes. His table was set. 2 plates, a loaf of fresh bread. A pot of stew bubbled gently on the stove. He slowly lowered the gun and slid it back into its holster. "Miss Hayes," he said finally, removing his hat. "This is unexpected." Willa Hayes gave a small, careful smile. "I heard in town your cattle drive returned today. I know what it's like to come home to an empty house." Ethan did not move. Willa Hayes was the schoolteacher from Silver Creek, a widow from Boston, proper, respected. They had exchanged nothing more than polite nods in town. He could not understand why she was standing in his kitchen. "You rode out here alone," he said. "It's 5 miles. I'm quite capable on horseback," she replied, her voice gentle but firm. "And I brought my father's shotgun. It's by the door." Ethan glanced and saw it resting neatly against the wall. Something about that earned his respect. "Well," he said slowly, "thank you. But I should warn you, I'm not fit for company." "There's hot water waiting in your wash basin," she said. "Supper will keep." He stood there a moment longer, then nodded and retreated to his room. Sure enough, a steaming basin sat waiting, a clean towel folded properly. He scrubbed the trail dust away, unsettled by the care she had taken in a place no one ever touched but him. When he returned, she was pouring coffee. She looked up, assessed him quietly, then nodded. "Please sit." Ethan sat at his own table, feeling like a guest in his own home. "Miss Hayes," he said carefully, "why are you here?" She smoothed her skirt before answering. "I've lived in Silver Creek 7 months. In that time, I've received many dinner invitations, 2 marriage proposals, all from men who see me as a solution to their loneliness." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "You never did," she continued. "You were polite, distant. That matters." "So you broke into my house," he said, almost amused. "I didn't break in," she said. "Mrs. Pearson, Carpenter, gave me the key. She worries." Ethan sighed. He would speak to the shopkeeper later. "I've been alone since my husband died," Willa said quietly. "Sometimes people just need to share a meal." Something in her voice reached him. They ate. The stew was perfect, rich and comforting. Ethan could not remember the last time he'd eaten like this. "It's excellent," he said. Her pleasure was simple and sincere. Conversation came slowly at first, then easier. Books, town gossip, children at school. Before he realized it, the clock struck 9. "I should go," Willa said. "It's dark," Ethan said firmly. "I'll drive you." The ride was quiet, peaceful. Stars stretched endlessly overhead. "It's beautiful out here," she said. That's why I stay, he replied. At her door, she paused. Bull, bull, bod. Would you like to come to supper next Sunday? The question caught him off guard. I'd be honored, he said. As he rode home, something unfamiliar settled in his chest. Anticipation. Sunday came too slowly. Ethan stood on her porch with wildflowers in hand, nervous as a boy. Willa answered wearing blue, her smile easing him instantly. Her home was warm, lived in, full of books and care. Supper passed easily. Conversation flowed. Afterward, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Why Montana? She asked. He told her the truth about the war, the ghosts, the need for space. And have you found peace? She asked. I've built something, he said, but peace is harder. You choose what parts of your past you carry, she said softly. Her words stayed with him long after he left. The weeks that followed formed a pattern. Sunday suppers, easy laughter, shared silence. Then one evening, Willa looked troubled. One of my students disappeared, she said. Her family fled after falling into debt with the bank. Ethan thought of James Thornton and his ruthless lending. Just because something is common doesn't make it right, he said. She looked at him then, truly looked at him, and something deepened between them. Would you like to visit the ranch next Sunday? He asked. Her smile was immediate. I would. When she saw his land, she called it perfect. A storm trapped them together that day. Rain pounding, fire crackling, stories shared. When night fell, she stayed. Nothing improper happened, yet everything changed. The next morning, gossip followed them into town. Willa did not hide. Ethan admired her courage. Then, one evening in June, she spoke softly. I've been offered a teaching position in Denver. The words struck him harder than he expected. And are you considering it? He asked. I should, she said, but I find myself attached to this place, to him. I hope you stay, Ethan said quietly. She turned to him, searching his face. I believe I am courting you, he added, voice unsteady. Her smile was radiant. Then I accept. As summer settled over Montana, Ethan Morrison realized his carefully guarded solitude was gone, and for the first time in years, he did not want it back. By midsummer, Silver Creek no longer saw Ethan Morrison as the quiet rancher who kept to himself. They saw him beside Willa Hayes. They saw him walking the dusty Main Street on Sunday evenings, his hat tipped back, his posture easier. They saw him at church now and then, sitting near the back, listening more than speaking. And they talked. Of course they talked. Some said it was about time. Others said the schoolteacher deserved better than a man who lived half wild on a ranch miles from town. Ethan heard little of it directly, but he felt it in the pauses when he entered the general store, in the sideways glances from men at the saloon. What surprised him most was that he did not care. What mattered was Sunday. With school out for the summer, Willa had more time. She began riding out to the ranch during the week, sometimes bringing a basket with bread and preserves, sometimes bringing nothing at all. She would sit on the porch with a book while Ethan worked nearby, her presence changing the very shape of the place. The house felt warmer. The land felt less empty. One afternoon, she surprised him by rolling up her sleeves and helping in the vegetable patch. You've been thinning these wrong, she said, kneeling in the dirt. I plant them. Wall. They grow. I eat them, Ethan replied. That explains a great deal, she said, smiling. They worked side by side, the silence comfortable. Ethan watched her hands in the soil, her focus, the care she took with even the smallest task. Something settled deep inside him, a quiet certainty he had never known. He realized it one evening without drama or thunder. Just a simple truth. He loved her. The knowledge frightened him. He had built his life around self-reliance, around keeping his heart guarded. Love meant risk, loss, pain. He had already buried too many names. But when Willa laughed, when she spoke about her students, when she looked at him as if she truly saw him, the fear felt smaller than the joy. In late June, they sat on her porch watching fireflies rise from the grass. "The school term ends next week," Willa said casually. "The children must be pleased," Ethan said. "They are," she replied, then paused. "I've been offered a position in Denver. Better pay. New facilities." The word struck him like a blow. "Are you considering it?" he asked carefully. "I should be," she said. "It would be advancement. But," he said softly. "But I've grown attached to this place," she said, turning to look at him. "To the life I've built here." Relief flooded him, followed by guilt. "Denver would offer you more," he said. "There are different kinds of wealth," she replied. The silence stretched. "I hope you'll stay," Ethan said finally. "I've grown used to seeing you, more than I realized." She studied him, eyes sharp and searching. "Are you courting me, Ethan Morrison?" "I believe I am," he said, voice steady despite his pounding heart. Her smile was radiant. "Then I accept." She declined Denver the next morning. Summer deepened. Their courtship became official, respectable, measured, and holding. Walks, shared meals. Ethan learned patience he never knew he possessed. Every small touch carried weight. By August, he knew he wanted more than Sundays. He wanted forever. He planned carefully. He cleaned the house top to bottom, bought new dishes, practiced the words he would say. When Willa arrived for supper one evening, she noticed immediately. "What's the occasion?" she asked. "Does there need to be one?" he said. After the meal, he led her to the creek beneath the cottonwood tree. "I love you," he said simply. Tears filled her eyes. "I love you too." He knelt, pulled a small box from his pocket. "Will you marry me?" She said yes before he finished the question. They set the date for October. Preparations filled the weeks. Ethan expanded the house, adding a second room for Willa's books and studies. Willa balanced teaching and wedding plans, supported by the women of Silver Creek. Then, the day before the wedding, everything shifted. Ethan was at the general store when a stranger entered, well-dressed, confident, city-made. "I'm looking for Willa Hayes," the man said. Ethan turned slowly. "I'm her brother-in-law," the stranger continued. "William Hayes." The air grew cold. "They're to be married tomorrow, Mrs. Parole," Carpenter said. William Hayes's smile vanished. "Interesting," he said. "My family was not informed." Willa was found later that evening in Ethan's hotel room, shaken. "He brought papers," she said. "A trust from Thomas. If I remarry, it reverts to his family." Ethan listened, anger burning quietly. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "Marry you," she said without hesitation. "I don't need their money." He held her, knowing she was getting up more than she admitted. The wedding day dawned clear and bright. The church was full. When Willa walked down the aisle, Ethan forgot how to breathe. They spoke their vows with steady voices and full hearts. They were married. At the reception, William Hayes approached. He offered congratulations. Then, unexpectedly, an envelope, a modified trust, partial support, a concession. "Thomas would have wanted you happy," William said. Willa accepted, surprised. That night, Ethan and Willa left Silver Creek together as husband and wife, and nothing in Ethan Morrison's life would ever be the same again. But the greatest changes were still to come. When Ethan and Willa returned from their short honeymoon in Billings, the ranch no longer felt like Ethan's place alone. It was theirs. Friends from Silver Creek had come by while they were gone. The house was clean. The pantry was full. A banner hung crooked across the main room, welcoming Mr. and Mrs. Morrison home. Ethan stood still for a long moment, taking it in. For most of his life, he had returned to silence. Now the house greeted him with warmth and proof that they belonged to something larger than themselves. Willa touched his arm gently. "They're good people. Our people now," Ethan said. Married life settled over them naturally. There were no grand adjustments, only small ones that mattered. Willa rose early and rode into town to teach. Ethan worked the land. Evenings brought shared meals, quiet talk, and the steady comfort of knowing someone would be there when the day ended. The extra money from the modified trust helped in ways Ethan never expected. They repaired fences before winter, bought better breeding stock, hired help during calving season. It never felt like excess. It felt like breathing room. Winter came early that year, Snow wrapped the valley in white. Long nights gathered around the fire. Willa read aloud while Ethan worked with his hands, carving wood, listening to her voice. The ranch house filled with books, laughter, and life. One evening in December, Willa closed her book and went quiet. "Ethan," she said. He looked up at the tone in her voice. "We may need that extra bedroom sooner than we planned." The meaning hit him slowly, then all at once. "A baby?" he whispered. She nodded, smiling through nervous joy. Ethan crossed the room and gathered her into his arms, overwhelmed. The war had taken so much from him. Loneliness had shaped him. And now life was giving him something new. Their child arrived the following summer, a daughter, auburn-haired and bright-eyed. They named her Emma. Ethan learned a new kind of strength then, the strength of patience, of gentleness, of love that demanded nothing but gave everything. He watched Willa with their daughter and understood that his life had been rewritten completely. The ranch grew. So did their family. Thomas was born 2 years later, a quiet boy with his mother's eyes. The house expanded again. Laughter replaced the silence Ethan once believed was permanent. 5 years passed faster than Ethan ever thought possible. One summer evening, he stood on the porch watching the sun settle over the valley. The land was fuller now. More cattle, more fences, more responsibility. But the greatest wealth was behind him. Inside, Willa stood at the stove. Emma carefully set the table, tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. Baby Thomas babbled happily in his mother's arms. "Papa," Emma called. "Mama says supper's ready." He stepped inside, washed his hands, and took his place at the table. 2 plates had once changed his life. Now there were 4. And as he sat down, surrounded by warmth, love, and the quiet miracle of a life shared, Ethan Morrison knew one simple truth. Letting her in had been the best thing that ever happened to him.